Game 3, Stanley Cup Finals. The series returns to Sunrise tied 1-1 as the Oilers and Panthers battle it out for the second year in a row in the Stanley Cup Finals. Myself, Andrew McInnis, Carmine Bianco here to break things down on PuckTime, WagerTalk TV. Carm, the series has shifted locations here. What an exciting first two games. It really, really was a really awesome game too. But got a feeling it's going to be something different here in Game 3 as the series moves back to Florida.
Yeah, those were two fantastic games. I'm happy to have been on the right side of both. I had Edmonton as a best bet in game one, Florida plus money in game two, so I was happy about that. But two games in overtime, you couldn't ask for more. Extra hockey we get to see, and now the series shifts. Now the series shifts obviously to the Sunshine State in Florida. And Andrew, this series could be anything right now. It could be 2-0 Edmonton, could be 2-0 Florida, it could be tied at 1, which it is. Overtime games are a crapshoot at best, and each team had multiple chances in those games. So I'm enjoying it right now. Hope to enjoy game 3 because I got a 5% play up at WagerTalk on my page, and you guys can head over there and pick it up for tonight's game. But Andrew, I looked at these games going into this one for game 3. And like you said, the venue switches. You look at a lot of the XG numbers that I looked at, and games 1 and 2 pretty much aligned with the final game stats of XG, high danger chances. Two goalies who allowed multiple goals, Andrew, and yet they still went over the saves props. And we're going to talk some props on this show as well too, or at least I am. But any takeaway from you in those opening two games? Do you think one team was better than the other?
I think that there were a lot of just like pockets of good play for both teams, Carmen. It was a game of chess. You know, one team had a good 10 minutes of a period, and then the next 10 minutes belonged to the other team. So it was really interesting seeing that. I love seeing the responses from both teams. If you look at it, what's kind of interesting is, one team coming from behind in another game and they won. And then the same thing happened in Florida Panthers. They kind of were struggling, I'd say, a little bit in the later part of game 2. And then they come out and win that one. You know, the thing is about the Florida Panthers is that they have such like a veteran type of culture over there. I saw a quote, this could be wrong, but I saw a quote saying that they were joking around in the locker room between periods, and they were all picking who their goal scorer is going to be for overtime. Like, what kind of team is that they can have such confidence and just comfortability where they're joking around in between overtimes in the Stanley Cup Finals, Carm? And apparently a lot of them were picking Brad Marchand, so they all picked the right goal scorer, I guess. But I think that Edmonton did a really good job of utilizing home ice advantage. And that's one thing I was really impressed by. I think they're a little bit sour. They weren't able to get both games at home. But now I'm curious to see how they're going to manage their lines, because when they were at home, they were separating McDavid and Draisaitl. They wanted to create as much separation and as much action on all lines as they possibly could. Now the fact that they're not going to get the last change anymore, very curious to see if they'll still do that. Curious to see how much they'll change their lines, because we talked about it. This series had real potential to be a back and forth series all the way throughout, Carm. But now all of a sudden they have home ice in Florida. You know, they got the split. And a lot of times in hockey, I know we saw in the NBA that the underdog took, or the road team took game 1, but a lot of times, as we know, the underdog or the road team is the team that takes game 2. And we saw that they get the split. So now time will tell what type of hockey and what style of play we see here in this one. I thought Edmonton was the better team, but at the end of the day, two very, very, very close games, and it ends up with a split. We couldn't really ask for anything better. You picked both sides. I stayed off game 2, just had the props there as free plays. Game 1, I had a 5% play. So it's your turn tonight, Carm, with your 5% play, and can't wait to see you guys, or see you cash that with all the customers. Number I'm seeing is minus 140 for the opener. And Carm, I haven't really seen much movement. I'm not sure if that's because at this point, it's just evenly sided both ways. Maybe it's too early when we're recording this, or maybe there's just not enough action coming in on both sides that it's worth moving. But circa minus 140, bet online minus 135, DraftKings minus 142. The total here is 6.5. And you talk about some props, Carm. Very interesting to see the depth for the Oilers if they'll step up, because not having that last change might mean, they're going to be able to match up. The Panthers are going to be able to match things up against the best players for the Oilers. That means that the Oilers secondary players are going to have to step up and potentially get more shots. So I got my eye on a few Oiler props, and I'll throw it back to you with this. I've been giving everybody two names all series long and dating back to the conference finals: Evan Rodriguez and Corey Perry. And you and I have been joking around about Corey Perry for a couple days now together, and the guy continues to get points. Those were two players on their own teams that were on the top lines that were around even money to get points. You got to love that, and it goes to show that you don't always have to bet on the best player on these teams to be making money in the prop market.
Yeah, no, listen, Andrew, I get it. Sometimes if you can't, you were talking about the line, and the minus 140, first of all, is the line that fits here. I don't think you can make Florida that much higher. I don't think it's going to move too much higher, because I think if you, this is a series, as like we discussed, could have gone either way in both games. I think if you get too much plus money on the Edmonton Oilers, you're going to get the market shifting and taking that money on the Oilers. So I don't see it moving at all. I think anywhere from 135 to 145 is where it's going to close. Unlike the other series with Florida, like when the Leafs were in town and in their series, and we saw the line at times moving 20 to 30 cents in juice. I don't think that's happening here. The Oilers have proved they can play with Florida, but your point of like that of the switching to Florida, the last change, we saw the Oilers took full advantage of it. There were shifts in which they cycled that puck, kept it in the O-zone, and then on icing calls with the guys on the ice for Florida for a minute plus, they got the McDavid line out there with Draisaitl, and they put pressure on them. The Oilers scored, I think it was 4 goals in the two games on 4-on-4 opportunities, Andrew. I think it was three goals actually in 4-on-4 opportunities. I talked about 5-on-5 coming into this series. Florida has scored goals 5-on-5. That's something that the Oilers need to be better at, because they were very good at it in previous series. It's why I'm looking at the prop market for a lot of these. You look at the saves prop, Andrew. I want to discuss that one with you, because sometimes if you can't decide on a winner in the game, don't flip a coin. Look to a market where you think you can beat them. And the save prop with Bobrovsky, he was 25.5. I released it as a free play yesterday on the site for tonight's game. It's at 26.5, so it's gone up one save. I don't follow the like Andy Lang does the saves props for goalies, but I would rather take Bobrovsky than Skinner in this spot. And two thoughts, Andrew, with that one. Number one, the Oilers are going to get some shots on goal. We know it. They're going to get shots on goal. They did it in the first couple of games, and we're not. They didn't even need overtime in order for Bobrovsky to hit his save props. Skinner is a risk, and the reason why Skinner is a risk is because we always worry about, is the Skinner of old going to show up, or are the Oilers going to fall behind and then pull Skinner? So that's number one. And then number two is, if Florida has a lead, they tend to try and shut it down offensively, and they play a better defensive game. They tried to do it in game one, Andrew. 2 shots on goal in the third period of that game in game one against Edmonton. Edmonton scores with about 30 seconds left to send that one to overtime, or the job would have been done. So I think Skinner's a risk. I think Bobrovsky over 26.5 saves is the right play as far as the first prop that I like. Any thoughts on that?
No, I agree with you, Carm. I think that, even though we've seen a lot of goals, like we're seeing a lot of shots. And so if these teams continue to play with the pace that they're playing at, the shot volume is going to be there. The funny thing is, when you go from one series to the next, everything changes. Like this prop you're taking here, Carm, might not have been the one you'd wanted to look at for the previous series. But with this one now, he's getting peppered. So I think it's a good one there. And you talk about Skinner. With Skinner, Carm, I think he's a guy at the end of the day where maybe there's some low-hanging fruit because people still don't have the respect on him right now. So Skinner could be a guy that we could be looking at for his save prop because, Florida's going to have that last change, as I keep mentioning. Florida's going to be kind of throwing everything they possibly can at the net. They're going to have those advantages. And, their power play hasn't been great, but they are getting power play chances. The Oilers are taking a lot of penalties, and that will lead to save props as well. Of course, if we look at the stat line for the previous game in game 2, 46-42 in shots on goal, guys. So again, if you're a fan of these save props, it's not as much really expecting how many goals each goalie is going to allow. It's more so looking at, what's the volume of shots going to be like? And I know we're talking about a double overtime game, so maybe this is an exaggerated example here, but 46 and 42 here, I mean, when you're talking about save props of 24 or 25 and a half, and again, I understand double overtime here, but 46 and 44 shots, if you've got teams reaching the mid 30s to early 40s in shot counts, that means both goalies are more than likely hitting their save prop. I'll tell you, Carm, I mean, I think that from my pick here, one thing I like is team totals, as you guys have known over the past several months. But in game 3s, I've found a lot of times we start to see our first under. A lot of times it was game 2, but with this series, I still felt that home ice for the Oilers would lead to higher scoring games, and Florida having home ice could lead to potentially lower scoring games. And, hats off and kudos to Florida because they were able to win a game when it was 1-5 wins. And this one in particular, I have a feeling it might be a 1-3 could win it, 1-4 potentially. But we're also going to see something that I think is interesting is Edmonton has had, I think 10 power play opportunities so far this series. They had 6 power plays in the last game, and they only had one power play goal. For what it's worth, McDavid has now hit 4 straight times with his anytime power play point. So if you guys want to get a better price on McDavid to get a point, plus 105 power play point. But I like the under 3.5 team total for the Florida Panthers. You can get that at minus 135, minus 140. I think it's well worth it. I think the Florida Panthers don't need at home 4 or 5 goals to win a game if they play the style of their choice. And I think if the game tonight is another 1-4 or 1-5 goals wins, then I think the Edmonton Oilers take it. So, look, I'm not saying that the Florida Panthers can't play a high-scoring style of hockey because I would be blind and not looking at the last 2 games. But I do still believe that those type of hockey games benefit the Edmonton Oilers. And now the Panthers get the last change. They get their defensive players out there because people forget it's not just about getting your offensive players out there. It's about getting your defensive players out there in times that you want them out there. So Florida team total under 3.5 is something that I have circled here for tonight. Back in Edmonton would have been a bit of a different price, but I think this one here in game 3, when I already like the under in the game, could be a good one with just isolating the team total. So, Carl, I'm very interested to see what happens there in that one. I want to ask you something, Carm, because when you talk about props, so we always mention about riding streaks, right? And sometimes it's as simple as me saying, you know what, Rodriguez is playing well. Rodriguez has a point in both games. He's played well going back to the Carolina series. Let's keep it rocking with this guy. But sometimes, you also don't want to push your luck with a player. You want to say, this guy's made me some money. We're going to pull our chips out and go to the money counter and just get our money and walk away and go to a new player potentially. How do you feel about that? Are there any players that you think will stick out today for the Florida Panthers that maybe didn't before? Because for me, like that Marchand line, I thought they'd be better at home. The Luostarinen, Lundell, and Marchand, but evidently Marchand has 2 or 3 goals in this series already. But I think that third line is going to be huge tonight for Florida.
Marchand's going to look great next season, Andrew, in a Toronto Maple Leafs jersey for Leaf fans. I'm waiting for the slow burn of in the offseason when he decides if the money is right or the deal is right that he signs with the Toronto Maple Leafs, the team he grew up, Andrew, cheering for. So he makes no he doesn't hide the fact. But when you look at streaks, Andrew, and then I want to comment on the Conn Smythe, but you look at some streaks. And when I look at some of them, I try and look at home and away splits as well too. So you look at like Sam Reinhart, and him for one. Right now his shot props are 2.5 minus 120. We know that he was injured during that Carolina series. Only played 3 games in that one, but in the 2 games since returning against the Oilers, games 1 and 2, he's gone over his shot prop 3 and 6 in games 1 and 2. 16 attempts on goal, 16 shots on goal. So some block shots there, some misses, but he is getting the puck at least towards the net, and that's all you can ask for when you're playing these shot props, especially the ones that are 2.5s, which you can definitely hit with. And then going in the completely opposite direction, you look at a guy like Carter Verhaeghe. He is, in 7 home games, he has only gone over his shot prop twice. Under 2.5 is about minus 120, minus 125. And that's probably one I'm going to play and release as a small little play, is the Carter Verhaeghe under 2.5 shots tonight. 2 and 5 at home. And I don't think this games 3 and 4 are going to mirror what we saw in games 1 and 2. We'll see. The last change for Florida is an obvious advantage for them. As I talked about, the line matching that goes on as well too. But I guess we'll find out after game 3 tonight. We've seen a lot of lower scoring games in Florida. We'll see if that continues tonight during these playoffs. 2 high scoring games in Toronto for Florida, then they came back, and I believe 3 of the next 4 games that were played in Florida, or 3 of the games that were played in Florida, 2 of them stayed under the total with a shutout involved in each one of them. Andrew, it's funny, when we were filming one of the last episodes of Blue Line, Matthew Barnaby, we were talking about Conn Smythe, and he gave an outside chance to Sam Bennett at 33-1. And I remember press saying, absolutely no chance of that happening. But Sam Bennett's thrown his hat into the ring. He has gone from 33-1 to now 6-1. He is the 3rd choice in the markets, behind Connor McDavid at plus 105 and Sergei Bobrovsky at plus 300, I believe, to win the Conn Smythe. I think maybe that goes with, if Florida wins and he continues to get points. He's got 3 goals already when he's not falling on top of a goalie or trying to knock him out. He's having a pretty good Stanley Cup series thus far.
Yeah, the thing about him is that he won't go away, Carm. Like, he is going to do something every single game. He's going to have at least one impact play, whether it's the joke you just made, whether it's good assist, whether it's a goal, whatever it might be, he's going to have an impact. So, you know what? It wouldn't shock me to see that. My Barkov pick has taken a little bit of a hit lately, as, again, guys like Bennett and Marchand have kind of taken over. So Barkov hasn't really been racking up those points. So I get it. He's someone that I think if people haven't added to their portfolio, they potentially could already. Carm, I think you and I are both on the same page, though, from what we spoke about the last show together. I don't think McDavid wins it this year if they don't win the cup. So I think we can put an X through that, right? To me, it's one of those things where he probably deserves to win it no matter what, because that's how the rule is supposed to be, and that's what the award is technically. But that's just how it goes. I don't think the NHL wants to give the same player in the same matchup the Conn Smythe twice in a row, especially if they lose. So that brings you to the next 2 options for Florida, being Bobrovsky and Sam Bennett. And I don't want to pat myself on the back here, Carm, but I said that the Oilers, they're going to be scoring goals on Bobrovsky. And I think that the only way he's going to win the Conn Smythe is if there's a handful of games that the Panthers win that are low scoring. They just won one that was 5-4. So does Bobrovsky deserve an accolade or, an achievement for winning a game with his team 5-4? Where I'm sitting, I don't think so. He's been fantastic all playoffs, but I think the matchup against the Oilers will kill his opportunity to win the Conn Smythe Trophy. There's going to be very far and few between under type games in this series. I think if you rally it up, tally it up at the end of the series, and there'll be far more higher scoring games than low scoring games. So I think that could hurt his chances. So all of a sudden that takes you to Sam Bennett or Barkov, 6-1 and 15-1. Those are the 2 guys that I'd look at. So it wouldn't shock me. Obviously, there's a lot more series to be played here, but that's where I'm sitting. I agree that Sam Bennett is definitely possible. It's one of those things where you're buying at, the all-time worst price, but at the end of the day, you can't worry about the fact that it was 30-1 last week, because it's not last week anymore. We've already seen him get a few more points. We saw him get really, have a lot of success in the first two games. So at the end of the day, I'm pretty strong. And Carm, again, I can't wait until the highlight reel, the mixtape that Dan drops of me saying that Bobrovsky's not going to win, and then he skates over and wins the Conn Smythe. But I'm just confident between these two teams. I don't think a goalie is going to win it. We obviously know Skinner's not winning it, but yeah, I still think Bennett. And the thing is, McDavid's plus 105. If Draisaitl scores a handful more goals again, all of a sudden his number goes from 7-1 down to 3-1, and we could see something magical happen with Draisaitl, because he's had himself a really good series so far. But this is the worst part, Carm, is whenever Draisaitl is scoring right now, it's usually coming from a pass that McDavid gave him. So it's hard for him to make any headway in the race if he's getting all his goals from McDavid passes, right? So those are my
Yeah.
thoughts on the Conn Smythe. And I got a few more props, Carmen. That's it for me.
Yeah, Andrew, the one thing I really hope games 3 and 4 end up in a split, that we're tied 2-2 heading back to Edmonton, because that just guarantees we're going to see 6 games and a possible 7th game. The 7th game, I would be in Vegas like I was for last year's Game 7 Stanley Cup Final. I would love to be at Circa watching it there, but 1-1 in Florida, I could see it happening. The Oilers can win on the road. They've proven it in these playoffs that they can do it. They went into Vegas, they won. They went into Dallas, they won. They went into LA. So they've proven they can win on the road. Both these teams can. This is why I'm glad that this series is not 2-0 for either one of these teams. It's tied at 1, because even the loser of Game 3 knows that they're still in this series no matter what, right? So
yeah,
the gentleman's handshake keeps coming into my back of my head, but it's a little different because it would be so hard for Edmonton to go to Florida and win both games. But it's Andrew. We know. We look at the first couple of games; they could have gone either way. We'll see what happens in what happens in Florida tonight. And as far as the goalies go, and I get the one on Bobrovsky, and it's the same thought with Skinner as well too. They're going to win games that are 5-4, but the goalies are still a big part of it. It's the saves they make at some point in the game when their team is down a goal that stops them from being down a couple goals that are the big ones sometimes that get missed. And Stuart Skinner had some of those. Bobrovsky had some of those. With that said, that's why these games were tight. That's why these games went to OT. I think the Oilers need to be better 5-on-5 tonight against this team. Maybe they discovered that, like the Oilers of old, back in the Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, Yari Curry days, that 4-on-4 goals were a thing, because they scored 3 of them in that game off of offsetting minors, and all of a sudden 4-on-4, more ice for the guys out there. So we shall see if that holds true in Florida tonight. I'm looking forward to this game. Definitely looking forward to this game more so than I was looking forward to. I'm going to throw it in there, Andrew, because it's transparency day for me. More so than I'm looking forward to the Italy game later today after they completely choked it away last week. Dear God Almighty. I said 10 minutes into the game, fire this coach. And what did they do there? They fired him right after the game. So with that said, I digress, man. Let me throw it back to you. Give me some props, man.
Yeah, so as much as I said I like the under there with the team total for Florida, Carm, there's some guys that are shooting the puck right now. We'll start with Seth Jones. I've been talking a lot about the defenseman. Over 1.5 shots on goal, 4 straight games for him, particularly in this matchup against the Edmonton Oilers. So we'll look towards him, shot from the point. And again, we're going to run back the Rodriguez point. And as far as the shots on goal, you said you like Verhaeghe under. I'm going to go Reinhart under. I just think it's so spread out, the scoring, the shooting. So many guys are involved. Like when you've got the third line playing as well as they are, that means that Paul Maurice is going to give equal time to a lot of these lines, which will take away shot counts and shot volume from some of the bigger name guys. And then for the Oilers, one guy that's been really effective offensively on the blue line, we keep mentioning him every game, is Evan Bouchard. He's obviously the best offensive defenseman on that team. People are talking about now that he needs more respect as overall in the league, as one of the top 5 defensemen in the league, top 3 or 4, maybe even. They're going to go over 1.5 shots on goal for him. And actually, I think some people are posting some 2.5 plus money. Look at DK right now. You can get 2.5 plus money for him. And he's hit that in 4 straight meetings against the Florida Panthers. So we'll look at that. And I'll have some best bets as well in this game. I think I'm going to have 2 plays official for clients in this game. But the free play I will be Florida team total under 3.5. Guys, do not miss Carmine's 5% play tonight. Big play tonight going in the NHL. He has correctly picked a winner in games 1 and game 2 so far. Make sure you join Carmine for game 3. We also have, 1.5 days, Carm, left, or 2 days left of that $77 for 7 days. It's an absolute steal of a package. You're going to get all sports, all action, everything that we are betting. NHL, NBA, MLB, whatever it might be. CFL action for me. We got games Thursday, Friday, and a doubleheader on Saturday, which I can't wait for. I'm excited. It's week 2. It's overreaction week. So, guys, you can join me for that. You can join Carmine. Forget about the 5% plays. Forget about the 4% plays. Join us for 1 week with that $77 deal. Promo code GameOn77. GameOn77. Get 7 days for $77. That's it for me, Carm. Anything else you wanted to mention before we close things out?
No, I think that's a great deal from my end. Obviously, I hope to keep the streak in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It reminds me of a couple seasons back in the NHL where I got every single game in the Stanley Cup Finals correct. It was almost a zigzag thing, which is not a gambling something you use when gambling, but that Stanley Cup did zigzag. With that said, Andrew, again, that $77 deal is good. Euro qualifying going on right now. The Gold Cup is starting. The FIFA Club World Cup in the USA is starting as well, too. The first games are on this Saturday. I've got some future bets up. I'm loading some plays up right after the show. So there's going to be a ton of content along with hockey. And that's pretty much it for me, Andrew. Pick up that play tonight. I hope to win it, Andrew. I'm loving the Stanley Cup thus far. So that's all I'm going to say. So for myself, Andrew, and our award-winning producer, Dan Alexander, we will see you for Game 4 in the Sunshine State.